Okay, go fuck.
Or,
Fucking
oh,
game's dog shit. I literally didn't even fucking press X. Alt. Oh my god! Where did it go?
uh-uh.
Utility out.
All enemies have been eliminated.
What is going on, everyone? Griffin here, coming at you with some Kestrel gameplay, and today we're going to talk about utility meta. The devs say that there is no utility meta. So let's listen to this Fireside Chat excerpt here and let's talk about it.
Okay, so Ash, your question actually was going to be one of my next questions. That has to do with the strength of explosives. So Ash's question: can we somehow shift the meta to non-utility? The game isn't as fun anymore because of the amount of players spamming utility, also overpowered weapons. So and then one of the questions I received: the developers don't seem to see that explosives are so strong in Rokuny, and that the aim doesn't really matter with explosives, and there's a feeling of them taking little skill to use. So do you want to talk a little bit about explosives and utility spam and gadget spam? And I mean, I think like the C4 buff was kind of contentious. Do we want to talk about some of our feelings about that?
Yeah, sure. Explosives in a game, we do have something planned to kind of address, especially in a mode like King of the Hill, or respawn modes in general. You just get all of your stuff back as soon as you respawn. We have plans to adjust that, not in the next update, but the update after that, I believe. So I would expect something to address utility spam in 2.4. As far as the strengths of explosives, we're a cover-based shooter, so having utility and having ways to get people out of cover is important and core to the game. The strength of them and like the sort of counterplay, obviously you have things like tenacity, you have APS, and you have just getting out of the way. Unless it's like a perfectly cooked frag grenade, most of the explosives are set up so you can sort of roll out of the way as long as you see them coming in time, obviously. And if they aren't strong enough to kill people and other players, then they don't necessarily do their job of getting people out of cover. So there is a fine balance of them being scary enough to actually force people to move and too scary. But I think the core of the issue is really people just being able to respawn and get all of their stuff back, and especially in a mode like a King of the Hill where dying really doesn't have that consequence.
So basically, Pretty Hair says here that there is no utility meta. We're a cover-based shooter. It's fine. Everything's fine. It doesn't matter that Runway completely upset the balance of the game with her ability. It doesn't matter that, a lot of these gadgets are able to be thrown around pieces of cover, bounce behind pieces of cover, and do very, very substantial amounts of damage. None of that matters. There is no utility meta. And here's what I will say about it. I'll offer suggestions on how this can be tweaked, changed, and made to feel a little bit better, but I will say that there is absolutely a utility meta. When you're playing against a Runway, whenever you're playing against a Trench, whenever you're playing against a Dahlia, and you have that stacked team that just has all this different utility that they are just going to pummel you with the entire game, it does not feel like a really fun, very pleasant experience. And the utility meta conversation honestly didn't start happening until Runway was introduced into the game, especially whenever she was first introduced, to where you could hit that and you could get maxed out utility. That was absolutely insane, and I'm glad that they reverted that back just a little bit, but it still feels very bad whenever you're playing against someone and you get 4, 6, 8 Semtex is thrown at you, what can you do? What can you do about that? And I understand it's a third-person cover-based shooter, when in reality, the cover doesn't really offer you a whole lot of cover. In reality, compared to other cover-based shooters, if you move, if you twitch at all, then your head goes above the cover, and that's a one-hit down from sniper rifles, and you get substantial damage from a lot of the other weapons in the game from that. So it isn't a traditional third-person cover-based game by any stretch of the imagination. And the fact that the developers don't see this as something that is a problem is very concerning. And I know that a lot of this is going to be changing with the Season 6 update, which should already be out by the time that I'm actually dropping this video. And I hope that that changes it up a little bit. I hope the damage resistance that some of these rogues actually get from the toughness changes this up a little bit, and tenacity actually does what it's supposed to do. And I know that there's different tiers of tenacity, and the different tiers have different levels of explosive resistance, which is good, coupled with, like I said, the toughness system and a lot of other things in the game. I think that'll make it feel a little bit better. I don't think it's going to fix the problem outright, in my opinion. I think that there's a lot of situations where you go down by utility and you shouldn't go down by utility. Then there's a lot of situations where you should probably go down by utility, but somehow you get out of it, and that feels really good and really rewarding, and that's the way that it should be. Let's turn the clock back here to when the game was first released in closed beta. Utility wasn't primarily used all that much. Whenever utility was used all that much, then you received way less damage from that utility. Unless it was like a perfectly cooked frag grenade, you received way less damage. But what it did do was, like what Pretty Hair is trying to explain here, it would drive people out of cover. You know that if you stay in this cover for so long that you can tank a certain amount of damage. So for example, if you have a frag grenade that's thrown at you and you get hit with, like, I don't know, let's say 60 damage out of the 100 damage that you actually have, then you know as a player you can tank that damage. You also know that whenever that grenade comes out, then that person's going to be pushing up towards you. You're going to be at a severe disadvantage because of this, but if you're good and you're smart, then you can outplay that person still. That's when it felt good. That's when the utility meta felt great. Whenever you could actually use it, someone could take substantial damage, you could push onto that person. If that person was good enough at the game, then they could capitalize on their cover and their game knowledge and their weapons that they have in their hand, and they could absolutely do a ton of work with that. Now it just feels like it's Semtex City over here, or it's fucking Bounce Grenade City, and there's just utility flying all over the place, coupled with the fact that rogues have utility in their kits. You have Ronin, you have Dima, Switchblade, Trench, Vi. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all these different characters that have different versions of utility that is baked into their kits themselves. Whenever you have all this coming at you on a stacked team, it feels very overwhelming. It doesn't feel good to play against. Like I said, I'm hoping that the next season will change this up just a little bit to make it feel a little bit more tolerable. But if it doesn't, then they really need to sit down and take a look at the utility meta, because it does feel really bad. It gets to the point where I only want to play ranked so that I can ban runway. Because I know if there's a runway on the team, guess who's getting fucking utility spam the whole time? It feels so bad. It's so stupid, in my opinion. It's something that should not exist in the game, and it's something that at one point, they nerfed all of the explosives. And the reason that they nerfed all the explosives was because that they were reigning supreme on the battlefield. Then they went back in there and we're going to do away with that nerf. We're going to bring it back to the way that it used to be. Welcome back, utility. I'm glad you're back to the party. It's like, what are you doing over there? Let me know what you think in the comments. It's absolutely insane, my opinion, that this utility meta exists the way that it does, and there doesn't seem to be anybody over there at First Watch that feels like that it needs to be adjusted slightly. And like I said, ways to fix this. They've already done one: provide different levels of tenacity. Lower the damage of the explosive slightly, where you have to get a direct, dead-on hit with that utility to down someone. Or something that would work better, in my opinion, is have 3 different fall off ranges for the utility. Okay, so if you've got a frag grenade, right, and if the frag grenade is from 0 to 5 meters, it's a 1 hit down every single time, whether they have armor, whether they don't have armor. If they cook it and they throw it perfectly and it gets between 1 and 5 meters of you, it should down you, no questions asked. 5 to 8 or 5 to 10 meters, then it does a substantial amount of damage. Let's say that it does 60 damage to you, or even 80 at that point with armor. So it does 60 to 80 damage, and then whenever it reaches that 10 meters out, then it does, let's say 10 to 15 meters, then it does like, I don't know, let's say, 20 damage or 30 damage, like something very small, something that is very insignificant, but you can still tank it, you can still stay in cover, and that means that the person that's actually using the utility needs to get better at what they're doing. That's how I would fix it. That's exactly how I would take every piece of utility in the game, and I would give it different levels and different fall offs for each, depending on how close you are to it, and just be done with it. And that should be the way that it should work. That's what a game designer should do, in my opinion. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check the description for links to Facebook, Discord, and Twitter. Those are the places to contact me. And if you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, on Thursdays from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Central Time, I will be streaming here on YouTube doing some Rogue Company. So if you're available, please feel free to stop by and hang out there. And then on Sundays from 10 a.m. until we get tired, my wife and I are doing a We Play series. So if you're available and interested, please stop by and say hello. Thanks for watching, guys.
Shock's in there.
Utility out.
He's weak. He's literally one shot. Shock is. Oh my god! I just got fucking beamed on. What was that?
That's what it was. Shock up a bit. Oh.
He's right here. Yeah, boy.
Oh,
Yeah, goddamn, dude.
That was a great throw, dude.
It was like, you win.
That was
Dude.
awesome.
Woo!
Awesome.
I seriously thought he dodged it, and I was about to.
I thought so
rip
too
it.
for a second. I was about to get angry. I was like, that was
Like, whip his
perfect.
legs.
Woo!
Whipping legs.